Hey, this is Andrew Brown from the AWS Cloud Project Bootcamp, bringing you a different kind of video. And in this one, what we're going to be doing is building out the Cloud Project Validation tool. Now, this is not something you have to do. It's just more of an additional video so that if you want to see how the tool is going to work and have transparency around those checks, you can learn along the way. Or if you want to suggest improvements or things that we could do to make it a better tool, happy to do so. But the way the tool is going to work is that it needs to have a cross-account role into your AWS account, and then it's going to make API calls, and it's going to download those JSON data, and then we need to validate that JSON to say, well, this application is actually here and working. And so I actually built out a tool back in week 3. I made like my own syntax and way of checking for it, but I thought that was very complex. Because it would require a lot of manual work to do it, and maybe there's a simpler solution, especially with the more popularity of these LLMs, large language models like ChatGPT, that maybe there is a better, more robust solution that we could be implementing. So, even though I built something already, I want to take another stab at it and try to work in ChatGPT. Now, there's a lot of models out there. I don't know them yet because I've not been focusing too much on all the possible models. So I'm just going to use what I learned, and if we find something new along the way, that's great. But yeah, we'll do our best here. Again, if you know more than me, go ahead and suggest that. Now, I don't know if I've already made a repository here for this Cloud Project Bootcamp. Doesn't look like it, so I'm going to make a new repository here. I'm going to put it under Exam Pro. I'm going to make it a public so everyone can see it, and this will be the Cloud Project Bootcamp validation tool. What we call this, the CPVVT. Of course, we need initialisms. Not that it helps at all to do that, and so I'm going to name this Cloud Project Bootcamp validation tool. Is used to determine if a bootcamper has actually done the work within their own cloud account. And so that will be set to there. We'll add a README right now. Nothing super fancy. I'm going to do this in Ruby because, I love Ruby, and it's going to be the easiest way for me to do this. I'm not setting a license here because I just don't know what license to set for now. But I'll go ahead and create that repository. My stuff is open in general for you to use and do whatever you want with, but because I haven't really thought about the licensing too much in detail, I'm going to leave that open. And the thing is, if you are concerned, just come and talk to me and tell me what you want to use it for. I'm sure we can figure out something there. So I'm going to open this up in Gitpod. And, I already do have some existing code that we can bring in, but I'm going to try to keep it real simple. And what I'm going to want to do here is make my way over to my AWS account here. I'm going to make my go over to IAM. And what I want to do is go ahead and find that user I created. I created one over here specifically for the Cloud Project Validation tool. And I have some credentials here. I'm just going to go ahead and I actually have 2 sets. I'm going to deactivate this one, and I'm going to deactivate the other one here. And I really did code a lot of stuff. It's like right in the platform, but I'm just going to ignore it and see if I can find a simpler solution. Sometimes things get over-engineered for no reason at all, and I do that all the time by accident, but I'm going to go ahead here and go next. And we'll say create access keys. And so I'll go ahead and set these here. So AWS access keys. Actually, what I'm going to do is go to GitHub here and type in teacher seat because I want to find the Gitpod tasks that I have here to make my life a little bit easier. So there's these that I want to set. So I'm going to just make a new file here. Okay, I'll paste that in, allow, and I want to go ahead and grab these. Of course, I will clear these out before you see them, so it will be less of an issue, but I do want to just show you again, how do we set these? Just in case you are curious. And so we'll put that around there, that around there. I've been doing everything in CA Central 1, but it doesn't really matter. We'll let it default to that region. Okay. We'll go ahead here. We'll go ahead here. It's also good that I do it in a different region just in case, you're writing another region. I want to test against that condition. So that stuff is set. What I also need is get pod. So I'll go, or get pod. I need to have the AWS CLI, installed. So we'll go here, and I just want to make sure if there's anything I'm missing that paste it in here, because sometimes, no, I think actually I do have everything here. So I'll go ahead and paste it in like this. And I'm just going to bring this down here. It's a bug. I just never get around to updating that. So we'll do that there. Okay. And yeah, those are all set. So that's all good. Go over here and say, install the AWS CLI. That's all good. And yeah, that seems fine to me. So what I'll do is I'll just go ahead and open the context here. Make sure there are some files. There is the gitpod YAML file. I'm going to go close that. Actually, I'll go over to gitpod over here, and we'll go to our dashboard. And I'll go ahead and just stop that, or just stop that. Whoops, stop it. We'll go back over to here. And I'll launch that again. And so now we will have what we want installed there. So it shouldn't take too long to launch this here. And we'll just give it a moment to get spun up here. There we go. What I want to do is do a simple test. So we'll do AWS here. STS get caller identity. There we go. So that is saying that I have access. This is also the same account that has the application in it, but we'll do this one step at a time. So my theory is that what we can do is download the JSON payload and then use something like OpenAI or ChatGPT in order to say like, hey, can you tell me what's in this thing? That's what I want to do. Now, there could be other open source models out there. I just don't know what to use. So I'm just going to use ChatGPT or OpenAI because I do pay for it. I mean, we could look at something else, but I think that's what we'll stick with for now. But it would be nice to have a free model, but whatever. So what I'm going to do here is go ahead and make myself a new file. I'm going to make a rake file, and I'm also going to generate a gem file. So I'll just go here and say bundle init, maybe. Is that what it is? There we go. We got our gem file there. And so the only thing I want is the AWS SDK. And there's different things, like there's VPC and stuff like that. I think it's EC2 is for VPC. I could be wrong, but we'll go over here and say AWS SDK VPC. And this one is using what? So it'll say like EC2 VPC, and that's why I was saying EC2. But the documentation is pretty good. But what we can do is try to use ChatGPT to generate out some of these things. So I'll go here and say, using the AWS SDK version 3 with Ruby, write me, write query or list out all VPCs in my AWS account for a specific region. Okay. It's a simple example, but let's see what it produces. I'm just trying to save myself some time. You can go to the AWS SDK and they have really great examples, but I'm going to just see how far we can get just using these examples. Again, I know there's other ones out there, Bard and stuff like that, but I'm just going to do it this way. The other thing is that, we could be using Code Whisperer to write this stuff out. I have yet to use Code Whisperer. I think I need to use my builder ID for that. So I'm not 100% sure if I want to go do that yet, but we'll go over here because we are writing code basically. And so these other tools are maybe better suited for writing code, but this is not in the right place here, but I'll take that out. And I'm just going to make a new file here and just call this vpc.rb. We'll go ahead and paste this in here. US East, CA Central 1 here, CA Central 1. And I don't know if we could even use Code Whisperer in here. There is a, I think a Visual Studio Code extension for it, Code Whisperer. But yeah, this would be where I'd have to open it up in my local VS Code. Oh, it says including support for Code Whisperer. So maybe we already have Code Whisperer here. But yeah, this is pretty straightforward. This is one way of doing it. I'm just curious about, because it is something new. There is GitHub has their own, but I'm just curious about Code Whisperer. We are using AWS, so I'm hoping that it knows how to write good AWS code. Let's go over here. Yeah, okay, US East 1, that's fine. ML Powered Coding Companion. Well, what does it normally cost? What's the pricing? $19 a month. And we have to use our AWS Builder ID, which I really don't like, but whatever, I guess that's what they have. Reference tracking, 50 scans a month. What does it do? Provides developers real-time suggestions. Integrations, it should have Visual Studio Code integrations. So what it'll do is go over here and we'll say try it for free, right? And they have one for VS Code here. So it looks like under developer tools, in the AWS toolkit, under developer tools, under Code Whisperer, select start, a drop-down menu will appear. I really hate the builder IDs. Sorry AWS, I just think it's a bad idea, the builder IDs. But if we go here on the left-hand side, we'll create a connection. We actually haven't really been doing this at all. There is developer tools under here, but anyway, we'll click here and see what happens. But we really haven't been using this at all. I didn't use it very often, to be honest, but in this one case, it makes sense. Use a personal email to sign up or sign in with AWS Builder ID. So we'll go ahead and do that. And it'll say to proceed, log in. So I'll copy this. And yeah, open this, sure. And we're supposed to enter a authorization code. Is it this here? Sign in. Next. Allow toolkit to access your data. It'd be really nice if I don't have to log into my builder ID. Link that easy. Okay. So that's step one here. We'll just go ahead, close this window. We'll go back over here. It's running. It's connecting my builder ID. Okay, well, that was a bit easier this time around. Personally, did not like it the first, anytime I use the builder ID when you log in, but it's just another credential I have to manage, but maybe this is okay. So Code Whisperer uses machine learning to generate out suggestions. The existing code and comments in your IDE supported by Java, Ruby. There's Ruby. That's what I want. Okay, if there's no Ruby, I'm not using it, but it will go over here and just give this a read. So as you enter code, Code Whisperer will offer inline code suggestions. Use tab to accept the code suggestion. Code Whisperer may provide multiple suggestions to choose from. Use the left arrow and right arrow to navigate between suggestions. If you don't like it, suggestions, keep typing or hit escape. What if I want it? Do you hit enter? Or maybe you hit tab, right? So use tab to accept a suggestion. Okay. You can request suggestions at any time using the Option C or Alt C, so something with C. After you receive a suggestion, use a tab. You can change Code Whisperer shortcuts, which we might have to do because, again, we're using Gitpod. And there might be conflicts or stuff like that. I'm also using Vim keys, so that's another issue for me at least. For the best results, follow the following practices. Give Code Whisperer something to work with. The more code your file contains, the more context it will have. Write descriptive comments. Function to upload to file to S3. What does that mean? Do I write comments beforehand? It doesn't say that. Specify the libraries you prefer by using import statements. Use descriptive names for variables and functions. A function called upload file to S3. Okay. So let's see if this works. Maybe we don't need to use ChatGPT. Maybe we should just use this for writing our code. So we're in here, and the question is, can it do a similar thing? So what I want to do is go down here and say, write a function, this function downloads the list of VPCs from an AWS account. And I'm going to go here and say def get VPCs. I'm gonna hit tab from this AWS region. That's actually what I want. Enter. Oh, give me a second here. Tab. Option C. Nope. Alt C. I'm trying to find. Oh, there it was. So it's Alt C, Option C. I have a Mac keyboard. I'm on a Windows computer, and I'm in a Gitpod. So for me, it's a little bit tricky. So we'll go ahead and hit tab. Tab. I'm hidden tab. Does it not know I'm hidden tab here? Look. What's wrong? Does it not recognize tab? Insert mode, tab. Okay, because I'm using Vim, I have to go to insert mode for it to understand. So I'll go down here, and we'll just keep going here. I don't know why it's not just writing me the whole block. Okay. You know, I could be like, you know, download JSON. Not really doing what I want it to do, but we'll try it and we'll see how we can go here. So this does download it here, and iterates through it. So yeah, get VPCs. So I'm just thinking about this for a second, because the thing is that when we do it this way via the SDK, it's actually going to wrap it in Ruby objects. And really what I want is I just want the data as is if you use the AWS CLI. And so the question is can we actually trigger AWS CLI commands that way, or could we use the API directly? Because at the end of the day, that's what I want. I want the raw JSON data. So maybe it'd be better if we did it with the... Here's the problem, is that in order to call the CLI commands, we have to use system commands, and system commands can fail, and I don't like that. But we do get reliable JSON structure, and we don't have to worry about working with objects here. So let's try that instead. And we'll say this function uses the AWS CLI to download a list of VPCs as JSON. Okay, and we'll go here and we'll try this again. Get VPCs. Keep going. Yeah, region, yep. I personally just don't really find this useful. This is not really doing what I want to do. I figured it'd give me like a larger chunk of code. Now, would GitHub's solution do that? I don't know. So let's go over to... I don't know. This is not really doing what I wanted to do. I don't know. I mean, we could go try out Codespaces or whatever, GitHub Copilot, but... All right, we'll just pretend that it's not here and just keep using it. And if it's helpful, it's helpful. If it's not, it's not. But I'm not going to switch between different tools to figure this out. I'd rather just get this done here. So, so AWS CLI to list VPCs for a specific region. Okay, so we'll do that. And so this stuff is going to be a lot more simple. So we'll go here and say def, or not def. We'll wrap this in a string. And then in here we need the region. So this will just be region we're checking against. And this will just be a system call. And so here, give that a go and try that. tab. And so what it's doing is it's replacing it, and it's going to dump it to JSON, which actually is what I wanted to do. So maybe this isn't too bad, and I just have to be a little bit more patient. So this should go to a specific directory. So what I'm going to do is go over here, and we will... we'll need to place it in an output. Now, it'd be nice if we could just send this directly to S3, because really that's what we need to do, is send that payload over there. But I'm going to make a new folder here. I'm going to call it output. And I'm going to make a new file here, call it .keep. Okay. We could even call it temp if we want to as well, but we'll call it temp because that indicates what it is. Okay. And what we'll do, we could also do output, I guess. I prefer output actually. But we'll go into our git ignore and I'll go here. Well, it seems like temp's already ignored. Say output. Like that. Well, we should commit it first so that we have it. So go to, refresh this here for a second. And we will keep the output directory around. Okay. We don't need to do that. That's fine. And then we'll do output. Okay, like that. And we'll say ignore the contents of output. So one thing that we definitely want to do is download the VPC file, but it also matters where it is. So one thing, and again, I really prefer doing it this way, so I'm going to do it that way because it's more explicit. That way when we use the function, it'll just be like get VPCs, and then we just specify it like that. So yeah, USEast1 would be the case here. The other thing is we need to know like who is this for. So we need a unique identifier for the student. So I would just do like user UUID like that. So we'll do user UUID. And so this would be something like, just generate a UUID. Like I just need a random one. It doesn't really matter. We're actually using version 4, so we'll do that. Generate. That's in the student portal. And so I'll go ahead and paste that in here like this. And that's what that output directory is going to be. So we can do it that way, or we could also pass in the output. Yeah, I'm just deciding there. For now, we'll pass it in manually here, but this will be our. We should stop doing that. User UID. Do I want all that stuff? No. Oh, that's annoying. We have the user UID. Did we want to break it down by region? I mean, if there was stuff in multiple regions, we actually probably might want to do that. So that kind of does make sense. I don't want the full suggestion. It's really making a mess here. And we could say region like this, because then we know what region it is. There are some services that are global, so that's another issue is like, should we do it that way? Well, then I guess it would just say global as the region, right? So we'll do that. And I mean, and again, this is specific for what it is, but this is user UID, region, VPCs. Another thing we could do is just, instead of saying putting region as a folder, we could just put a hyphen here, and then we know what this is here for that. And so I could go here and just say describe VPCs. I kind of prefer if we stuck with the name of what these are. So we'll go here and say describe VPCs. And yeah, so that should download that, but it's still not going to the folder that we want. And so it should have a path to the output. So we'll just say output path here. And for this is just going to be right now output / like that. Or just the output folder. I kind of want to put the absolute path for now. So what I'm going to do is just copy this here. And paste it in like that. Oh, it's a little bit long, but we'll refactor it out as we go. We just want to try to get something working, not spend too much time refactoring for stuff we don't know if it's going to work or not. I'm going to go here and say describe VPCs. And so that will output that to the output directory. It'll have the user UID, so we'll know exactly the scope that it's in. The other thing that might matter is what is this for, right? So like this could be the identifier for, because if we have multiple boot camps, right? We might need to have subfolders or things like that. That, or we could just have separate buckets and keep it a lot more clean that way. But I'm thinking what I'll do here is, yeah, scope that out. So what we need to do here is specify also, I'll put the output path here, 1 second. Output path. So go here, and another thing we could do is go up here and just specify the output path in total. Output file. And then what we could do is do squares instead. I kind of prefer that. And then we can just join that. Or we could do file.path. File.path in Ruby, I believe it is. And then we can just do a join on that. And that will actually then produce the URL more properly there. Yeah, that's not how joins work. Like I was like trying to output there. That didn't make any sense. And so what we can do here is now do the output path. And then we have this project scope. We have our user UUID, the region, and the rest there is fine. Great. And to make this more readable, what we can do is bring these onto new lines here. Okay. Right, and so now that's there, and what we can do is just now place an output file, and that'll be a lot shorter. Again, you generally don't want to do system commands like this, but you have to know what you're doing and why you're doing it, and so in this case, I think it's okay. But yeah, we have AWS EC2, describe VPCs, region, output file, so that seems fine to me. The other part of this here, you know what, I'd probably like to make this a here doc instead because I'll have more flexibility when I'm writing this. So I'm going to go here and, well, we don't actually even have to make it a here doc. We could also make that a join and make that a lot easier for us. Like a here doc allows you to do multi-line, but it might be better if we actually have it on a single line. So I'm going to go here and just type in command, and we'll bring this up here like this. And I'll just make this an array. Okay. And then we can just do a join on that. And the reason I want to do that is that then we can actually print this out and say like puts command, and then just pass the command here as well. So we'll go here and do this. And we'll go here and do this. And so that is one way we can do it. I mean, we could also do a here doc. I'm just trying to think like me writing a lot of these commands and if it's better to make it a here doc. And you know what? I think what I'm going to do, yeah, but I don't know if it could handle multi-line for system commands. So maybe it has to be like that. Another thing we could do is if it's on the space, it could join them together. I'm just thinking about this for a second. Ruby %W, because there's different ways to break. And we'll go over here and see what other ways there are. So here, no interpolation and backslashes. I'm looking for that WQ. So this one is on the spaces. Yeah, there's not really anything there. We could also use a here doc, I suppose. So let's go get a Ruby here doc. Write a Ruby here doc example. Write a Ruby here doc, and then join the lines to make a single line. Okay. Again, I'm just trying to make sure we have as much flexibility as we'd like to when writing this stuff. There we go. And I believe that would have interpolation. So yeah, that's all we have to do. So what I'll do is just go ahead and grab this. And I'll go up here. And we'll paste this in. And we'll just say command. And then this will be command. We'll go down here, command. And Ruby lets you just like stick this on the end here. So I can go here and do this. The reason it's highlighting weird is because it probably wants us to hug like that. Or maybe it wants this to be like that. Or that wants to be on the wall like that. I'm not sure why it's giving us a hard time here. Let's just look up actual examples of it. Ruby here, doc examples. Another way is with the queue. You get an extra new line at the start of the end. So you could call strip on that. Oh, maybe we're supposed to do it on the front like that. The trailing new line. Squiggly here. You can remove extra indentation at the start of every line. I think what we'd want, yeah, is this. So we'll go ahead and grab this instead. Well, we don't need to grab it per se, but we just need to put a tilde here. Like that. And instead of doing that here, I'm going to take that off here. And I guess we're going to place that there instead. And now our highlighting looks like it's working correctly. And so there's more to that. We need to also take this and oh no, that would work. Yeah, right. So that's going to return a single line, or it should anyway. But hold on, let's go back over here for a second. To get out of here. Yeah, the dot strip. So I go here and say dot strip. And this, and so I'm hoping that this would give us back what we'd actually want. So I'm going to go ahead and go over here and just take this out like this. And so now I can write a multi-line. The only thing that I don't have to do here is put these here at all. So, I mean, we could leave those in. And then what we should do instead is we could, I'm just trying to get it so like when we have it there, it's easy to copy and paste and audit it. That's the reason why. So, I'm just going to take this out here for a second. We'll just run this quickly. Bundle exec Ruby VPC here. Dynamic assignment. Well, that has to be lowercase, that's why. AWS SDK EC2. Let's take that out for now. We're not really doing anything as of interest. Project scope is something we need to set, so I'll go up here and say project scope. So this would be AWS Bootcamp 2023. Whatever the code would be, I might change that there. I might actually even have the code on the badge. I'll have to double check there. So unknown keyword project scope. What do you mean? It's right up. Oh, it's not even defined there. Okay, we'll go up here. We'll place this in here as such. Project scope. It's got to be the other way. Take that out here. 5, given 5, expected 1, describe VPCs. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Line 2. File path join Ruby. We've been working in Python so much it's messing me up. Oh, it's just file join. We don't have to do path on that. Okay. File join. Oh yeah, it wouldn't need the slash. It would just know what to do. Okay, great. So that would do that. It already go to string anyway, so we don't have to do that. It's fine. So we'll go here, and so now we are getting this to log out. It does have the forward slashes in here. Let's see here. Puts this command. Yeah, it's not showing them. if I put an L here? Does it just pull them out? Well, that's convenient. So we can still drop these in. What happens if I do this? Yeah, it'll have some dumb spaces in here, but other than that, we could, well, we'll just take this to the wall. Then it'll look more proper here. Yeah, and so we could just take this and continue to take this to the wall. There we go, and so that is a much cleaner output. But the idea is that now we can see the command that is running. And so we can go above this here and just say puts executing this. Anyway, we'll figure out that formatting as we go here. But anyway, so yeah, now we have an easy way to like go here and copy this command and give it a try if we want to. So yeah, there is that there. But the question is, does this command work, and is it going to output in the correct place? Correct place. Validation tool. I'm going to show those cut off there. But this directory probably doesn't exist. So I mean, it definitely doesn't exist. So we'll probably have to force it to create it. So we'll go up here and do require, I think it's file utils. And then we can use mkdir, make directory force for Ruby. I think it's F. mkdir -p Ruby. mkdir. Yeah, there it is. Okay, so we'll grab this here. We'll go back over here. You know, if you already know what you're looking for, ChatGPT doesn't really help, or that code doesn't help that much, but I guess I could be writing comments for that. It's really hard to get in the habit of writing it when you know what to write. Do you know what I mean? So there's going to be a generation of folks that just don't know what they're writing, so they'll write comments until they get the result, and they'll be really good at that, and it's just going to be very hard to kind of switch to that way of thinking. But we want to make sure that path exists before anything else. So we'll go up here, or actually, sorry, just right here. And I'm going to pass the output file here. I actually just want to get the path of the file. So we'll go up over here. Get path from file Ruby. Is it like file dir name? Yes, it is. Yep, so that's what I want. File dir name. So we go here. And so that should go ahead and, you know, create the folder for the downloaded JSON if it doesn't exist. Create the path to where the JSON file will be downloaded. Create the AWS CLI command. Copy, you know, format the AWS CLI command to be a single line, right? Print the commands so we know what is running. Run the command, which will download the JSON. Okay, and so we'll go here, and so let's see if this actually works now. Because this account is hooked up to my AWS credentials, and so in theory it should work. We'll go ahead and hit enter. We have a require on line 1. Maybe it's file utils. And that's a system library, so we don't have to add it to our gem file. And so I think that it might be downloading. We'll go over here, and it's outputted the results here, and so we have the results. So that's part 1 of this thing. So here is our or JSON. So what does it tell us? We have CIDR block, GCHP options ID, state, VPC ID, owner ID, instance tenancy, block associations, and this is our default one. Now this is for US East 1, and so this is not very useful for us because the one we want to have is CA Central 1. Okay, so CA Central 1. And so we'll go back and hit up. And this will download it again. And if we go over here, did it output it? Doesn't look like it. Do we have this like hard-coded for the region somewhere? So here it should have done, yeah, CA Central 1. And the output should have been here. So it didn't do anything. Let's try running it manually. And I still don't see anything. So what is going on here? Why is it not outputting? Maybe we should be outputting the where the path is going to be. So we'll just say puts output file, print the destination of the file of the outputted JSON. We'll run this again. Oh, sorry, that's that part. We'll run this here. And so here we can see where its path is, but it's not it's not outputting. This definitely says CA Central 1, so it's interesting that it worked once, but it doesn't work a second time. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and delete this file. Let's hit up and see what happens now. Nothing. Let's go over here and try this again. US East 1. Try this again. And hit up. Oh, sorry. We'll run the command. US East 1. Nothing. So maybe it is erroring out. It's just not telling us. So what happens if we go ahead and grab this here? We get output. Great. What if we go CA Central 1 now? CA Central 1. And we get output. So yeah, it seems like there is something funny going on here because it's not outputting our files the way we expect it to. Unless it is outputting and we're just not aware of it. So I'm going to go over here. And how did I split that? I don't even know how I did that. Oh, I guess I click that. I like how I've never done that for the whole project so far. And we're going to go into this one here and then go here. I'm just wondering if it is here and we just don't see it. So we'll go US East 1, LS. There is a file there. Okay. Let's run this again for CA Central. Or we already did. But let's go back here and change to CA Central 1. Maybe it is here and it's just like... this is lying to us. What if we hit the refresh button? Oh, okay. So it was there the entire time. We just had to hit our refresh button. Sorry. My bad. Anyway, I want to just close this window out here. So I'll just close this one out. And so we'll go take a look here. And what information do we have? So we have tag data. So that's great. So that'd be one way that we could check. My expectation is that you would have these named correctly. So that might be something we're looking for. I'm just dragging my desk a little bit closer because I'm a little bit far away from my chair. And so, there's information here, but the question is, can ChatGPT or some tool, OpenAI, tell us the contents of it? So let's go look up OpenAI. OpenAI API. We'll look it up for Ruby. Hopefully there is one for Ruby. It says there is. Now with ChatGPT and CodeWhisper, is this the official one or this is just a client? Yeah, this is just a client, but does OpenAI actually have a OpenAI Ruby? Like an actual Ruby one? Seems like there is a gem right here. So maybe it's like a community gem. It says for GPT-3. This one says GTP-4. Transcribe and translate audio with Whisper, or create images with DALL-E, stream text with GPT-4. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and add this line to it, or install this and require OpenAI, but we'll go ahead here. Maybe the documentation is a bit out of date there, because it's saying only 3, but clearly it does 4. And we'll go here, and I'm going to just type in bundle install. And so that's going to install OpenAI. We'll go here, we'll say require OpenAI. Well, there's downloading files, but there's also analyzing them. But we're just going to keep everything in a single file for the time being to keep it simple. And so here it's expecting a token. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this. I don't really know the security around these tokens and how they expire. So I think what I'll do here is set it as an nvar here. We'll just go here and say open API token, access token. Okay. And I'll make my way back over here. So for a quick test, you can pass the token directly to the client. For a more robust setup, you could do that. That's probably what we should be doing. I actually do prefer that, to be honest. Like that. Also, they have an opinion about how that should be, so that's fine. Then you can create the client. Okay. Let's bring this down here because this happens afterwards. And we'll go back over here, and it says custom timeout or base URI, the default timeout for any request, etc. Or when configuring the gem. I don't care about that right now. There are different models you can use. So the GPT-4 is limited beta. I mean, 3.5 might be fine, but what we're going to do here is, look here. So GPT model can be used to generate text in a conversation style. You can use the stream from the API to do that as well. Role user content hello. I'm not really sure what the role is here. You can stream from the API in real time, which will be much faster and used to create a more engaging user experience. I really don't need to stream, or at least not yet. So I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to go down, and I'm going to paste this in here. And so we have a few different models here. We can leave it on turbo for the time being. It's probably one of the faster ones, and we can always move up to 4 if we're having troubles, but clearly 4 is a lot slower. We want this to move as quick as possible. Temperature, there's like different values. I'm not sure what they are. Hit OpenAI API for a completion of GPT models. No. Send a string and some instructions for what to do. What day of the week is it? I like how there's a spelling mistake. Oh, fix the spelling mistake. Edits. Embeddings. You can use embeddings to get a vector of numbers representing an input. Files. Put your data in a JSON L file like this. Maybe. Fine tunes. Upload your fine tuning of your data. Oh, is this us training it? Overload with joy, completion positive. Okay, so this is probably more for like training. I'm not trying to do image generation. I like how they generate out rubies. That's kind of cool. But what I'm interested really in is after the development bin, etc., to install gem on your local machine. If you have OpenAI and your envs running the specs, this will use, I guess, the actual specs of the API. Okay, so what I'm going to do is make my way over to OpenAPI because we definitely have a subscription to that. Or OpenAI, not OpenAPI. Similar, but not at all. And I'm going to go here to OpenAI, and I'm going to go log in. I'm going to just see if I have an account or if it's just my Google account. I don't, so it must just be my Google account here. So I'll go into the API. And this is where I want to go ahead and grab my my key here. I really just don't want to expose that. So I'm going to just pause here and be back in a second, okay? All right, so I've set those two values over in here. And so that is now configured. Now the question is, will the prompt work? I'm not really interested in running this right now, so I'm just going to comment that out for a moment. But looking at here, we configure it with the two values. It says it's optional, but I put it in because in case you have multiple organizations. And yeah, we're just going to say hello. I'm not sure what the temperature is. I assume like accuracy or something like that, like if it thinks it's true or not. It says puts response.dig choices 0 messages content. Hello, how may I assist you today is an example that it might do this. So what I'm going to do, oh, I just showed you, well, nothing important, but I'll go ahead and clear that out. Is there a way to like clear the history? Clear history of terminal up. And maybe we can just do this quickly. Oh, I'm hitting up now and it's cleared. Great. Okay, great. So the org ID is not a big deal, but it was more so I was worried about the key. But anyway, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and run this and see if this actually works. Oh, we have to actually run it manually. So Ruby, bundle exec, Ruby, VPC, RB. Fingers crossed that it works. And it does. Great. So there is OpenAI. So the question really is how do we pass a JSON payload to it and have it figure something out? So that's what I want to know next. So we'll go over to the API, wherever that is. If there's any documentation, API reference. Requesting an org, making requests. Retrieve model. I just want to know like what's the best way to pass data to it. So here's some options. We have the model. So the idea of the model message is a list of messages describing the conversation so far. The role of the author of this message, one of system, user, or assistant. So there's clearly a difference between those. We'll go to the documentation because maybe this has that example there. Go here. API is powered by a set of models. Okay, that's fine. Tokens can be words or just chunks of characters. That's fine. It's not really telling me what I want to know here, but to be fair, I'm not really reading that thoroughly. You know what? Let's just go ask ChatGPT. We'll go over to ChatGPT. What is the difference between these roles for OpenAI? Typically used to set the behavior of the assistant model, it is often used to provide instructions or set the context. You might use a system message to tell the assistant to speak in a certain style or to perform a specific task. A human user who's interacting with the model, messages from the user provides instructions to the assistant, ask questions, or otherwise drive conversation forward. This role is typically used to set the behavior of the assistant model. It's often used to provide the instructions or set the context. This role represents the AI model itself. Messages from the assistant typically include responses to the user queries, but they might also have questions to the users for clarification. This role represents the human user who's interacting with the model. Messages from the user provide the instructions to the assistant. Okay, so basically prep the model, talk to the model, talking back to you. At least that's how I understand it. What sampling temperature between 0 and 2? Higher values will make the output more random, while lower values makes it more focused and deterministic. Okay. Alternative to sampling with temperature. Okay, I'm not sure about that. How many chat completion choices to generate for each message? Okay. Up to 4 sequences of the API. Okay, so that's pretty clear. Let's go back over to here. And so we have our role, which is user. That makes sense. And then there's the content. So here we're just going to put that as content. I don't know if 7.0 is good. It's interesting. This says response dig. Yeah, we can leave that like that. Choices 0, message, content. Does it even show that dig command there? Not really. Okay, well, there's only one way to find out. Let's go ask ChatGPT, like, you know, what's the best way to pass JSON code to OpenAI to analyze its contents? All right, so we're just seeing what it wants. It says, for more complex JSON, you may need to provide additional guidance. By using the system message, we just learned that that's how we would set it up. Remember, the AI model, like GPT, works well with structured data and clear instructions. The better the input, the more output. So here's an example of Ruby using it. So the person's name is Data. They are years old, and their occupation is, their hobbies include this. Well, one thing we could do is go here and just see what it can do with this. Describe what is happening in this. Describe the infrastructure for this AWS JSON payload. Let's see if it can do it. So it is doing a summary. Now this is on GPT-4. We might want to try this on GPT-3.5 because that one should be a lot faster. And also, you know, we can see its results. So it seems to be handling that okay. The formatting might be a little bit different. But the new chat here. So it says VPC1 IP address range of this is that. Is there a VPC, a custom VPC for the CRUD application? Based on the provided JLoad, there is associated with CRUD.NET application. The VPC has the following attributes. Therefore, it appears there is a custom VPC. Is that a yes or no? Okay. So this is where we're getting kind of closer to what we want it to do. But I guess the question is, could I just give it the payload here and would it just know? So we go here and we'll make a new chat. Is there a custom VPC for the CRUD application in an AWS account? In this AWS infrastructure payload. Okay. And so, yeah, it seems like it's intelligent enough to do it. Here you can see the summary. So it has the VPC ID. There's the CIDR block available, tenancy, the tags. So it is simplifying and identifying the exact same thing. And you can see that it has a tag indicating the association with the creditor application. So yeah, it is doing that. And but the thing is that we want back a JSON response. Can you return a response in JSON? To validate this check. And we probably have to tell it what format. And I guess the question is, what does it look like if we compare it to this one? Is it similar? It seems like it's cutting out, like we don't have to see that association block and stuff like that. But I guess the question is, could we feed it a lot of JSON files and would it be intelligent enough to do it that way? So what we need to do is just write out some more checks there, but clearly our integration for OpenAI is here. And so I think what we'll do is we'll break this up into two files. So the first one will be validation.rb. And then this one is going to be renamed to, because we just need the payloads. Payloads, I guess. Maybe not the best name. I'm going to make a new folder in here called lib. And we'll just move these to over here. Okay. And then now that we have that, I'm going to make a new file here. We're going to call this Cloud Project Bootcamp. We also call it just main.rb, I suppose. But there is a naming structure when you're making Ruby gems, and so that's something that we're kind of getting close to doing. Require relative. So what we're going to do here, we'll just say lib validation, right? And then up here, we'll just say, whoops, we'll say payloads. And we'll go here and make a class, or a namespace, I should say. So this namespace is going to be Cloud Project Bootcamp validation tool. This is pretty long. Namespace? Well, I can't remember how to do. Oh, module. Sorry. I promise you, I know Ruby very well, but you know, the structure of these really do matter. So maybe we can go take a look at the one for the sync tool, because that is written in Ruby. So we'll go over here. It's lib, and then the folder name. Yeah, and then the file. Okay. So what we'll do is we'll make a new folder here, and we'll call this one Cloud Project Bootcamp Validation Tool. Okay. And then what we'll do is drag the lib directory into there like that. And yeah, the lib is there. And then this one needs to be renamed to Cloud Project Bootcamp Validation Tool. And then I'll drag this up into here. Okay. And so, yeah, that's what that's supposed to do. And so the idea is we want to have a function here called run. We could have initializer, but I like to have everything as stateless functions. It just makes life so much easier if you do it that way. And so now we can do our checks for what we want to do. So the idea is that this is for the scope of a particular project. We know what the scope is going to be. It's going to be for the here. So I'm just going to grab this out of here for a second, cut this out, and bring this down. I'll paste this in here. Now, the thing is that we're going to have different boot camps, and they're going to have their own different checks. And so I think what I'll do here is just make a new class, and this will be named AWS Bootcamp 2023. Okay. And then in here, we can bring that self-run function in here. And we'll just indent there. When things start to get like this, I start commenting it like this, so I just know exactly what the end is here. It makes my life a lot easier. Notice that our Code Whisperer has not been very helpful. Okay. But I guess I'm not really writing suggestions and using it the most optimal way, but I still think that it's not that great. None of these autocomplete tools are if you know how to code. But if you're finding use for it, that's great. Okay, so we have this self-run function, and the idea is then what we can do is then individually run our validations. So the thing is that these payloads, this is just like a way of downloading all the different kinds of files, and I think that these will just be kind of generic, and we don't really need to change them around. So we're just going to make a new thing here called modules, paste. Come on. Paste here. And this will be for AWS. So I'm going to go here, make a new folder. A new folder here. I'm going to call it AWS. And I'll bring the validations in here. Move that like that. And so, did I lose my old ones? Oh, sorry. It's the wrong one. We want to move payloads. Sorry. So we want to move payloads in here. Yep, we'll do that. Validations is just going to stay out here for the time being. Move. Actually, we probably want to make a different validations for different projects. So validation would be for rename this to, I'll just make a new folder here. It's AWS payloads. Or what we could do is rename this to payloads. Yeah, I know. This is how I do it. I just rename things 100 times over. And this will be called AWS. All right. And so then we'll make a new folder here. And that will be called validations. And then what we'll do is drag this file in here. And then this will be called the name of the bootcamp. So this is going to be AWS Cloud Project Bootcamp. I mean, these are all for the bootcamp. So we'll just do AWS 2023 cohort. Okay, as the identifier, and so that's how we'll know what this is. And then I can go here and we'll do our modules. So we'll have module, cloud project, bootcamp, a validation tool. And then here we'll have our class or module validations. And then here, this will be class AWS 2023. And then that will have its own run function to run those validations. And so now what we'll do is go up to this one here, and we can just grab that code on over, right? So grab this here, paste this in up here, and then we go down below and grab this stuff, right? So we'll go ahead and grab that. And we'll go in here, and we'll paste that on in here. Whoops. Try this again. Come on, what the heck? How many times? I'm gonna do copy because every time I do the cut, it just seems to make my life terrible. We'll go ahead and paste that in. If you don't like the levels of nesting, we can reduce that because we should be able to do this. We should be able to go like this and do validations, AWS 2023. And then that way, just do class like that. But the thing is, we do have to define these somewhere. So we'd have to go in here to the top and just say like module, or in here we just say module validations, and like that. And that way that would be defined. We can go module payloads. And so now it's actually defined, right? And anyway, so then we can take these out here, and now our level of indentation is less annoying. There we go. So now it's only 2 levels. And I'm just going to put class on this. For this self.run. So again, we just know what they are. Coming down to here, this was running it for this bootcamp here. And so that's actually going to go into that other area. So what I want to do is go back over to AWS. And you can see that we started to, I mean, this runs it. But let me think about this for a second. So there's the validations. That is that. Yeah, I'm thinking about this. Okay, so over here we have AWS RB. So it would be this, and then we could do payloads, and then this would be AWS. And that's actually a class. Whoops, a class. And so now I can go here and just grab. We don't need this here anymore. This is old. But we can go ahead and grab this describe function here, like that, and put that here. Okay. There's some generic code going on here that's going to get repeated a lot. So this output file is probably always going to be the same. The only difference is going to be the name here, maybe the region. So we could refactor that out a little bit. And so we can go make this a self function, and we'll go up here and say self. Like output path. What do we need? Do we need the path and the file? We just need the output file. So I'll go here. We'll say def self output file. And then the idea here is we can just go self like this. We might also have to specify the full name, but I'm going to do self for now and see if that just works. I always forget, so I have to play around with that a bit. And then what we can do is grab this out here like this. And then we can just paste that in like this. And so this has to take particular stuff. And this is all used just for that. Is it used anywhere else? The region's there, the output file is there. So all this other stuff, user UID, project scope, region, well, we kind of do need it, but I'm just trying to think about this for a second, because there's describing the VPC, the payloads. Like we want to download it, and then we want to upload it. So there's always two parts to it. So there's the download, and then there's the upload, because eventually we do need to store this somewhere, like on S3, so that we have an audit trail for it. And I'm just trying to think, like, if I call this here, I could technically have it on the outside. It's just what else do I need in this function is what I don't know. So the output file, stuff like that. So we kind of have to finish this up to actually upload. So after this downloads, what it needs to do is it needs to upload to S3. So upload JSON file to S3. See if it'll write that for us. Alt-C. Connection expired. Oh, connect with AWS. That's why it stopped working. Didn't even know. Copy and proceed. Open. I guess it timed out or something. That's probably why we weren't getting any help. Definitely not logging into that. Let's see if it'll log me back in. Nope. Screw it. No thanks, Code Whisperer. So we'll go back over here and, upload an S3 file to a bucket. Upload a JSON file to an S3 bucket using AWS SDK 3 Ruby. Okay, and so this is going through and configuring a lot of stuff. That looks pretty much right to me, so I'm going to go ahead and copy that. Sometimes there's an issue with like the encoding of the files, but I don't think it'll be that too much of a problem. And so the thing is that we need to upload this. We could technically... Now, it doesn't really matter what provider we're using because this will always be the same mechanism. So I'm going to go here and say uploader here like that. And then I'm going to go over to here. I'm just going to copy all of this code. We'll cut it out, save it. We'll paste it in here. And I'm going to go here and grab this validation tool. We'll say module validation tool. We'll paste that in. I'm going to go down below here. We're going to grab this code, go up here. And the idea is that this is our uploader. So we'll say class. Well, we can go up here and just say uploader. And just do class like that. We'll say def self run. Like uploader is running, so it's simple there enough. I'll go down here and we'll do this and we'll say class and we'll go here and just say self run. I'm not saying this code is any good, but I'll just check it here in a second. The idea is that for our AWS code here, oh, we didn't grab all of it though. Let's go ahead and cut that out. Might be missing that there. And I'll just grab this here. Don't really need to configure it every single time, but it's not really going to hurt it if we do that. Okay. So that's our uploader. Let's just assume that is implemented correctly, which we'll circle back here. But the idea is then we want to go here and use that uploader. So we'll go here. I really don't like how long this name is, Cloud Project Bootcamp Validation Tool. So we should really use its summary. You know, I keep changing things. So CB P B V T. Okay, because if we have to type that every time, I'm gonna go crazy. I'm sorry that we're changing it last minute here, but it's just gonna make our lives a lot easier if we change it. So I'll go ahead and do that. I'll go ahead and do it there. We'll go ahead and do it here. Because then I can just call, instead of having to do that self, I can then call it very easily. That is fine as well. I'm gonna go down and just take that out like that. I'm gonna rename this to CP BVT. I mean, it doesn't really matter. We can leave that alone. But for at least for that, it'll make our lives a bit easier working with it. So coming back over to here, now I can do is C PBVT, and then we can say uploader, and then we can run it, right? And then we can figure out what we need to pass into it. So coming back over to here, this is the payloads. So we want to do payloads, and I want to include the AWS one. And we can go over here. I want to include 2023 for the project validations. And then here we want the uploader. Okay, we'll go over here, put some documentation. So this class is responsible for uploading JSON files, JSON payloads, JSON files that represent that. This class is responsible for uploading files, JSON files to S3. The files contain output from API calls from API calls from CLI tools, which will then so that's we are storing them for to hold on for auditing. Right, okay, because the thing is we need to audit against, like in the future, let's say we update our model, we want to check it again and we get smarter, that's something we might want to do. But the idea here is that we're going to need particular data to do this. It clearly needs the region, so that's one thing we need. Now, we don't necessarily need to specify the region here because it's always going to go in the same place, wherever we want it to go. It's the region of where we want our bucket to be. So I'm going to go here and say env region, AWS region S3 bucket. I'm trying to think here because there's the region that is going to be used by the user that passes in. Yeah, we'll just stick this with the default AWS region. It'll be whatever this tool is using is where it's going to place it. So we'll do that. Access key and credentials. You know, that's the standard. AWS nvars for that. I always forget what it is. So we'll go over here. There they are. So there's one. Paste it in like that. There's two. Those that probably get loaded automatically if those are set. So we don't actually have to specify it like this, but I'm going to do it anyway explicitly, just so that we know exactly where those are coming from. It's great for people that just don't know where stuff is coming from. Okay. So now we have that set up there. So yeah, create an S3 client, specify the bucket path. So the bucket's going to be wherever our payload goes. So here I can say env, and we should really be taking note of all these We should be taking note of all the environment variables because it always sucks when you can't find them later. I guess we can make a .env example for that. So we have your AWS region. Can we do comments in this? I think so. The region which the validation tool runs within. Okay. The AWS credentials for the user which runs the validation tool. Sorry. And we'll just try to be proactive about putting these in here. The bucket is going to be wherever, it's payloads bucket. The S3 bucket that contains JSON files describing the infrastructure, so we can perform validation. Again, validation. Yep. So that it does matter. You know, the format name is just the name of the bucket, not the bucket address. Okay, because there's like ones that are, you know, whatever. So here we could just say CPBVT, and I'll just say payloads. Okay, that's there now. Specify the name, and then there's the file path. So that is something we'll want to pass in here. I'm trying to have a function that will assemble the path so that we don't have to pass so many parameters along. So this will be the file path here. Read the JSON file to content. Yeah, that seems okay. And then there's the key. So we'll go up here and we'll just say object key. Again, I like to do this explicitly because then we can exactly see what they are. And we go here, file path. The path to the JSON file to be uploaded. Here, object key. The S3 object key that the file will use in the bucket. Okay. And so the thing is that the name is most likely going to be the same structure. So we don't necessarily need to explicitly pass it that way, but we'll see, because sometimes you get flexibility by doing that. And so even if we're going to do it based on convention, it gives you a bit more flexibility down the road to do that. So that's just a consideration. So I'm going to go here and do object key. Again, we haven't tested if any of this works, but generally it looks good. It doesn't have good error handling on this, so we'll go back over here and say like, provide better error handling on the put. I can just tell it doesn't have it. Yeah, it's a little bit better, I suppose. I guess we can do that. It's using standard error, which is not great. Use specific errors, not just standard error. It's a little bit better. It's not the best, but we'll grab it. I feel like there's more than just that. But anyway, so this is our runner. And since we have this here, we could actually break this up into individual functions if we want. So We don't really have to. It's so darn simple. So we're going to go here and paste this in. So that's going to bring in our this stuff here. Really, we just need to wrap the this part of it because that is what's calling it. So we'll go back here. Yeah, they put the begin there as well. They're putting in the file contents, but it really doesn't have to go in there. Go ahead and do that. And so that's really what we're checking for here. So if there are any errors, we're going to find out. Now, this should really tell us whether it's successful or not. I guess that if it doesn't raise an error and it gets through, it would be successful. But the thing is that we might not want this to be blocking, because if we're downloading a bunch of files and it quits on one, we don't want to stop the entire process. We would like it to attempt again, or at least tell the user what happened there. But I mean, that seems okay for now. But we do have our uploader, and it has a file path and an object key. And we were able to get around these things by setting them as envars. You got to be careful when you want to set envars and not. Sometimes when I write programs, I will pass in every single little thing so we can see what each thing uses. Because then right now you have like envars that are just sitting here. You don't really know what's getting passed along. So, I mean, this might be a mistake not passing them explicitly along every single time. But for now, I'm just going to do it that way. So this uploader coming back over here, it has a file path that it's expecting. And it's expecting a object key. And these are going to look very similar. So we're going to bring this down onto a new line as such. Okay. And yeah, the whole reason is we're just trying to get rid of all these things, because if we can call this describe VPC and then pass those paths, it'll be a lot easier. So now I don't need to, like, notice that these aren't being used here anywhere. We can assemble this output file and stuff like that. So yeah, that would be the file path, and the object key would need a little bit of work there, but we only need to pass in now the output file. So these still need this. So we'll go here and grab all of this, cut that out like that, and we'll go down below like this. And it still needs to know the name. So we'll say file name like this. And so that's what that would be up there, is the file name. So now what we can do is go back to wherever we are calling this stuff. It's probably not where it's going to live, but right now we have this describe VPCs. It's really coming from this here. Like that. And so what I'd rather do is go here like this and paste this above here, and then we'll do output file like that. And so then we could pass these in here. And then we could also pass in the name or file name here. Okay. And this is stuff that you learn about maintainable code and based on the kind of systems you're coding. But yeah, you have to just learn to work with lots of data and build these systems to know how to code certain things certain ways. But even if you still get things working, that's still fine. So that will create that output file. So we'll go here and say output file. And so now I can pass that along, output file here. We'll go down below here. And so this just needs a output file. That's right here, so we don't even have to call that within there. The other part is here, so we'll go output file like this, output file. It's file path, because to them it's not an output, it's just taking a file in. And then the object key, we'll need to modify that so that it shows that for us as well. So what we can do is go up here and just say output key. And so we could pass the exact same values in. We could also take the output file and manipulate it and then get that outcome. It's really up to us how we want to do that. This is pretty much going to be the same. The only difference is that it doesn't run this part. This thing is going to, it's still going to output it, but we'll just say return output file here. Just up here, say output file, output file. Okay. Yeah, and so, the question is, do we pass those values into this one, or do we just manipulate this one? I think I'd rather, even if it's more code, I'd probably rather, I guess, pass the same values in twice, because that would give us the flexibility to change it later. So I'm going to go up here and say attribs. And I'm just going to make this curlies, and we're going to bring this down. This makes it a Ruby hash, and so now I can just pass this in like this. I'll just say attribs, and that will just expand it. And so we have the output path, and now we have the output key. Okay, and it takes the same values, and so now I can do output file, output key. Again, we could make this very less verbose, but magic coming back to this project, not remembering how it works, but having this is going to make your life a lot easier doing it that way. And so this will take the same stuff here, and we'll go up here. We'll go down here, and it pretty much looks the same. So create the key to where the JSON file will be uploaded into the bucket. And now this gives us the flexibility if we need to change in the future, because that's something that I do find that happens quite often, is changing that stuff. And I'll go down here, and we'll just say, and we don't have to call this output file. We just say value like this. Value. Sometimes it's useful to do that. If you have small functions, you could do that and have a generic name like that. Again, I'm not trying to make this code as concise as I can. I'm trying to make it maintainable for the future. This would be output key. Just say value here. Value. The only thing that doesn't come here is the output path. So we just take this output path out of here. We don't need that anymore. And so this is very similar. But what I would do here is let's do a dot merge on this. And I can just do output path on this. This output path is always going to be the same. So I'm just going to... this might be the time when we want to set this as an mvar. So I'm going to go here and just say output path. Output path. Keep the singles. I like the singles. They just look nicer. You can do doubles if you want. Technically, singles are more efficient, but in this case, but it doesn't really matter. So we'll go down here. We'll say output path. And I'm just going to hard code this value. Again, this is just me working here. It's not like I have anything secret or special in this repo. This is going to be a public repo, remember? And so, that is set there. And so if we go back over to here, I'll just put that single quotation back in here. And so that will merge the contents of that. It's not an explicit merge, so it's just instead of that, we'd actually merge it permanently in there. But we just want to have this. So that's the key difference here. Okay, so the output file and key are similar, with the exception that output key does not have an output path. Well, we don't really need to write why that is. But so anyway, that is going to do that. We'll go back over to our uploader. Not our uploader, our this here. Because now if we go into this file, payloads, yeah, payloads, now we don't need, well, we need all that stuff up there, but here we removed the output key is fine here, so this also could be just the comment up here, to be honest. Great, and so down below here, now we just have output file and output key. If we have a lot of things like files and names and stuff like that loading, then we could abstract this into its own class as well, like a files helper or something. But for now, they're fine over here. I don't think we'll really need to move it. But I'm just trying to keep this function here as light as possible because we're going to be doing quite a few of these. So we have describe VPCs. So that is the command, then it executes it, then it runs the system, then it uploads it. So really the only distinct thing in here is the command itself, and all this other stuff is going to be repeatable because we're just going to keep swapping it out with different commands. So we have describe VPCs, which is fine. So we could make another one here, and this will just be execute. So we'll say self execute. Hopefully we can use that. That is might be a reserved word in Ruby. Is execute a reserved word in Ruby? Sometimes you have to watch out for these. Seems like we're okay to use execute. It just seems like that would be a reserved word, and that means like it's a word that the language uses, and if you use it, it's gonna give you a bad time. And so here, what we can do is just basically copy this stuff, because this technically executes the command like that. And so this just be command. We'll say that it's already self. And so here we can just do self execute command like that. Because there's only one input and it's very clear what it's doing, that's why I didn't do the command : command. But when we start expanding like this, I like to do that. Object key. So I'm just trying to think here for a second. So because these are always going to be the same. It's always going to do these two things afterwards. And so that's the execute, which is totally fine. I'm just trying to think about this for a second. Also, this is specifically for the uploader. So I also kind of wonder if that should be in the uploader, not in here, and then it'll be out of our way. So I can go over here and, I mean, technically this is for downloading the file, so it's not necessarily the same thing, and it would actually be specific to payloads. But I'll go ahead, I'm just going to cut this out here because it really doesn't belong in here. It's going to go in the uploader. So we'll go down below here, and we'll paste that in here. And so now what we can do is go back over to here, and then this is going to be it still says upload file, it's supposed to say upload key, so it'll be uploads, uploader, right? And so now it's doing that instead. Again, these outputs are going to be generic. It's not specific to AWS. I mean, some of these formats actually might be, because this is saying region, and so technically it could actually be that. So maybe that is what we'd like it to be. I'm just thinking about this for a second. What I want here is, again, I want to try to group, like we have the execute, which is the base stuff. So maybe, just trying to think here. I can go here and just say helpers. Say module class helpers. Okay, and then just go here. Like that. And then down here, this would be commands. Okay, so looking at this, this is now not just that. It's going to be, it gets kind of long, but if we go here, this is now, and you can always explicitly do it that way if you prefer, but it's now going to be this here. It's going to execute those commands. So yeah, describe VPCs. Yeah, I'm just thinking about it. Give me a second to think about it, okay? I kind of want to make a little bit of a DSL here to clean this up a bit. But what I want to happen here is I want to actually go here and say maybe like runner dot run, and then pass in these attribs up here, okay? And so that way we can just do this, and that will wrap a lot of that stuff. So if we do this, I'm trying, and we'll see if we can make this work, but we'll have runner up here, and then we'll say def self run, and then we can cut out this stuff, and we'll paste it in here. Okay, let's undo that for a second. We'll paste that in here, and then the idea is we can pass our attributes here, our attributes. And so, I mean, we might run that. I guess really what I want to do is I want to pass a function along. That's what I want to do. I want to pass it as a proc, because then it just reduces the stuff that I have to do. Run attribs. Because like when you do chaining, what's happening here is you have to return an object. And so that would return something, and then you could call something on it to run it. So it would have to initiate a new class. And in that, it would have those functions. So down below here, we have this here, right? And so technically, what we could do, talking out loud just helps me figure it out. I can go here, and I can say commands. And, you know, it does contain all the commands, but that's not really the best word for it. It's just where the commands are. And so I can just say, like, new, and return that. You don't have to write return. It's the last thing will always be returned, but I'm just going to take that out there. And so the idea is that that will be there, and then I can call dot on that because it's returning, it's instantiating that. I try not to use I try not to instantiate stuff, but if you want a DSL, you kind of have to do that. Otherwise, we're just returning it back like this, which is a bit kind of silly. But I suppose if we did that, then we could have a post and pre-step for this stuff for whatever it's running, because it will run it. Ooh, I really don't like having state, but I think we will do it in this case because I think that we really do want to keep this easier to use. So in this one case, I guess I'm going to do it. So we'll go here and we'll do initialize. That is the function that Ruby likes for its main one. So every language does that a little bit differently. Haven't spelled initialize in a while. I'm going to make sure I spelled that right. It is correct. That's good. And so that would be the one that runs by default. But these can't be self now. So they actually just have to be like this, which is fine. And so instead of having these here, I can take this up here like this. And it's going to call the run. So it initializes it. We could also, doesn't really work that well. We could do it, hold on here. Let's undo this for a second. We could initialize it and we could just say attribs. But then why do we need the runner up here? We just do it all in there. Well, we could just take this out and make this the runner. And we still need to have some state. Payloads runner. Let me see here. And then the question is, why did we break these up into helpers at all? Let me just undo this for a second. So we'll put that back into there. Instead of calling these helpers, I'm just going to call this the runner up here, like this. And then down below here, this self function is going to be at the top here. Okay. And so the idea is that we'll have the attributes that we need to pass in, and then it'll be the command that we want to run. And so what we can do is run it dynamically. So we can go CB BVT. I'm just trying to think how we would do that. In Rails, it would be called instantiate. It's been a while. I don't remember. That's weird. Classify. Rails classify. No, that's not it. Run dynamic function class and function Ruby. Call a dynamically call a class function in Ruby. So I'm just looking for that. Yeah, see, this is where it's initiating one where I guess we could say a static function, I suppose, because it is static. Dynamically call a static function in Ruby. See if it figures that out. Constantize, that's the word I was looking for. So constantize would be the way we do that, but that's for if we're trying to dynamically call the class. So we want to say dynamically call a static function on a class for Ruby. It's possibly send. Here it says, how do I call a method dynamically several times an instance? It seems trivial, but who knows? I used to know this because I used to do it all the time. This is where we get into Ruby magic, and we got to be careful. But below are the outputs of the method call. So execute with send. And well, what's their take? Which one should we do? So is the method being called? Basically, there are three ways of doing it: send, method plus call, eval. It's also, I've added a few comments here. So for now, I guess we'll just do execute with send, and if there's an issue with that, we can find out later. So we'll go over here, and I'll paste that on like that. And so now we can just pass the command like this. I kind of prefer if it is a symbol, but what we can do here is now we can call this describe VPCs. So what we'll do is just go here like this. And we don't even need that. We can just go here and just say describe VPCs. And so that is a more concise way of doing it. Okay, so I think that is better. Now we could put the attribs on the end, reverse that there, like that, right? And then if we want to, then we could just do this. I mean, we could have it up here if we wanted to console log it out, but I'm just gonna, in this case, I want it to be more concise. It seems really arbitrary the way I'm doing this, but I think it makes sense, and whatever, I'm writing it. You're not writing it, you're just watching. Okay, so if you are writing it, tough luck, sorry. Okay, so now we're doing attribs there, and so this is gonna send the command over here. And so this one still takes the output file, the output key for that. But let's just keep thinking about this for a second. How can we make this work a bit better? Because the idea is that I want to just have this describe the VPC. And this doesn't need this stuff down here. It just needs to return that. So what we could do, it's just this now, by the way. We can grab this stuff up here and then go here. And this is really just bringing back the command like that. Because that's all that is. It's just the command. And that will return it as the last line here. So we'll go up here. And now the command is here, and so now we have this more concise way of doing it. And so now down below, we can define all our different kinds of functions, right? So there's that. Now that we have there, we can do runner like this. And go down here, and then I'm just trying to get rid of, I really don't like when things start getting stacked like this, because then I can't see what I'm doing. So I try to bring them down a level here. And so we'll indent that like that. We'll go over back up to here. I'm gonna just copy this, go down below. And now we have our commands. Okay. And so that's gonna be a little bit easier to manage. We do need to have this module up here, so it says CPVT, whatever. I like to place them in here. There might be like a dynamic way to load them, but I just like doing it this way. I think it's the easiest way to do it. So I go here, and then I would just have module AWS like that. So as we're just kind of like proofing it for future boot camps, like Azure, Kubernetes, whatever. Some of these still might rely on the same one. It just really depends on where the project is deployed, right? Anyway, so we go down below here. Now we have this command over here. We've changed a lot of code. The question is does it even still work? Probably not, of course. This stuff is still hard-coded in here. So this is the runner. So this is the actual thing that triggers it. So I'm just trying to think about this. This is payload. So this runs each thing and downloads it. So the idea is that we want to continually download stuff. This stuff is always the same, though. This is never changing. So I'm just thinking about this for a second. That's always going to be the same. Do we really need to pass the file name in like that? Probably not. So I know we just did this, but I'm going to go up here and paste this in here, and we'll do attribs like this and bring this down. Because again, we're going to be calling lots of these, right? It's not just going to be this one we're going to run. We're going to run multiple ones. And so we'd rather just do that. And then we can infer the file name, I suppose, from here. So if we go over here, it could just be based on the name, because the name is always based on the API call, I guess. Or, you know, what we could do is we could just merge it in here. I'm just trying to think like flexibility for naming for other frameworks here. So maybe I'm just going to do it that way. It's not the prettiest, but it does work. There we go. And so now the idea is that we can do multiple checks. So if we have described VPCs, we can keep going down here and doing all of our checks. But the idea is that we want to download all these files as step one, and then when all the files are downloaded, then we want to then load them into the GPT model and then say like, hey, is this stuff correct, right? That's what we're trying to figure out. So yeah, there's that. It also uploads the files. So that's the other thing it does. It downloads the files, and then it's going to upload them into its target location. Yeah, it executes it, and then it uploads it. The thing is that the GPT model can only handle so much JSON, so I'm not sure, like, how can you pass a large amount of JSON to ChatGPT without it timing out? If you need to pass a large amount of JSON data to ChatGPT without encountering timeouts, you can split the data into smaller chunks and then send them sequentially or in a paginated manner. By dividing the data into smaller pieces, you can process and handle them within the timeout limits. So the JSON into smaller chunks, each containing a portion of the complete JSON payload. Send the first chunk to JSON for processing. Receive the response from ChatGPT and process it as needed. If there are more JSON chunks repeat steps 2. By breaking down the JSON data into manageable chunks, you can avoid timeouts and handle the data efficiently. However, it's important to note that the response from ChatGPT may not be aware of previous chunks or have context from the entire JSON payload unless you explicitly include that context in each request. Another consideration is to optimize JSON data by removing unnecessary or redundant information, if possible, to reduce the oversize of the payload. Keep in mind that the specific implementation details may depend on the platform or code you're using to interact with ChatGPT, so it's important to review that stuff. So yeah, I'm hoping that what we can do is just like download all of it and then load it into the model and then ask the model a bunch of questions, and then it will tell us what it knows, right? Like, could it tell us, like, what can you tell us about the Creditor application, right? Or the implementation of it. Anyway, we do have this running here. So this one's running. I guess we should just get it into a working state where it does upload the file. There. So that would, I guess, would be the next step. So what I'm going to do is make my way over to AWS here. I'm going to go over to S3. I almost showed you my secret, but that's okay. That thing's going to get cycled out here anyway. And I want to go to my env example files, and I'm going to go ahead and create this new file called payloads. So we'll create a new bucket here. This will be called this over here. I'm going to store this in US East 1. I'm just going to try to keep this straightforward by keeping it in this region here, even though you've been seeing me do everything in CA Central in the bootcamp. And we'll go ahead and create that bucket. So now that is over there, and I'll go back over here. And so we don't need to set these because these would already get set in our, our Git pod or like locally, right? But what we do want to do is load that env.file. So Ruby load env.file. We've done it before, so it's not like it's that hard. And so, well, we'll just go grab it from the actual bootcamp because we have it in the bootcamp. So I don't have to think about this again. Bootcamp. AWS bootcamp. Here we go. So I'll go over here. And in here, we will go to our latest week, which is week X. And I'm going to go into Verb, is it? Or maybe our gem file. Yeah, so we have .env there. So we'll go ahead and grab this here. And then I'll go down to our gem file. And then we'll go back over to here. And so this is used by maybe our rake file. Yeah, we never finished this implementation. I know a bootcamper that is apparently trying to get it to work. And so if they do get it to work, I might circle back and make a video. You know who you are. Okay, so We have .env. It's not loading it, but I think it will just load the default file, even if we don't specify. At least that's what I think. So we'll go here, .env Ruby. Yeah, and so you can do this and then specify if it's a different file. So I'm just gonna go here and drop that in. So we'll go here and do that here. This should not be loaded here. We should do it over here in this file. So we'll paste this in like that. Require.env. It's kind of frustrating that it took that out there. So load our env file into the environment variables. Okay, we'll just put an end to this here, and then I'll bring this over here like this. Define all of our modules so we don't have to nest module names in our files. Okay, so like that's the whole point right here, right? So we don't have to do that kind of nesting, because then this becomes a lot easier to work with. All right. Okay. All right. So I'm just thinking about this for a moment here. Just a second, okay? Sorry. And so the thing is that we want to have a runner. I think we probably want to do that for our rake file. So I just need an example of a rake file because I never remember these from scratch. So if we go back over to, keep closing it, I don't know why, but if we go back over to the Bootcamp project, we can just take that as an example. So I'll go here and type in Bootcamp. And I'll go over to here. And we'll drop down to week 10 here. Okay, and I'm gonna go down over to our, where? I wanna go into something here, our rake file. Yep, there we go. And so, yeah, and see this runner, it passes everything through it this way explicitly, and so that is one way of doing it. I might go back and change it that way, but for now, I'm just going to go ahead and copy part of this. So we'll go ahead and copy that. We'll paste that in here like this. And so what we want to do is load this here. So we're going to do require relative. Okay. And I mean, technically we could use the gem file to load it in place if we wanted to. Yeah, maybe we should be doing it that way. So I'm going to say Cloud Project Bootcamp here. Cloud Project Bootcamp validation tool. Okay. And then the idea is we want to run this. So we'll say run. This actually has namespace. So we say namespace run do, and we'll pick this here, and this will be AWS 2023. Okay, and so this will run AWS 2023. And so then what we can do here is then call this. So we'd say CPBVT AWS 2023. We don't even have to say bootcamp here because it's in the name of the CPBVT, right? So it'd be that. Let's say .run. And so then this is where we want to pass our parameters. So we have project scope. And so, we want to have very specific names and stuff like this, but this would be for a specific user. So we go here and just do user ID. It's pretty much all this stuff here. So we can go here and copy this and then go ahead and paste that here. And then this output path would just be env output path like that. The region for the user's region. So this would be env user AWS region. And then we'd have env, I'm going to delete that just a second because otherwise I'm not going to have that for later. User UUID here. We'll go back over here. And going down below here, we'll say user UUID, user AWS region. So I'm using CA Central 1. And then this is the UID we have here. It's just a made up UID, of course. That. Okay, and then the project scope will be whatever we want to call it. So if later we want to just call it this, we can do that. These are, like, sometimes they run beginner boot camps. I don't know if I want to distinguish that. So I'm just going to do that for now and figure out a name later on. But that's going to pass in those values there. You know, we probably should trickle everything down. So we have like our secret, our key, our access token, all this stuff. I'm thinking about it. And yeah, so there are those values there. And so that would be how we would run this. Yeah, I'm really tempted to pass those along. We probably should, and then we'll know exactly where they're getting loaded. Because if we don't do that, then we're just not ever going to be able to see what's going on. So, yeah, I'm just thinking about this for a second. Go back over to AWS here. This has env right there. This gets called in our here. It calls the runner, which is over here. Oh, the runner's right here. I'm getting mixed up. So yeah, I'm just thinking about this. I just don't like it when I don't know where there's nvars. And so by passing nvars in, then you from the top, then you always know where they are, no matter what. And it makes debugging like so much easier. And then you know what your dependencies are. It does make a lot more work to crawl through the code, but at least you know what's going on. So yeah, I think that's what we're gonna do here. So I'm gonna go to the top here, and I'm just gonna change this so we'll have AWS region. We'll have AWS access key ID. We'll have AWS secret access key here. We'll have the payloads bucket. What you can do in Ruby here is you can do this if you want. Makes it a little bit easier to see what's going on. Okay, and so then we'll go over here and we'll just change these over. So payloads bucket. But that does mean that when we first load this project over in maybe the rake file here, we need to pass those along. So we'll go ahead and grab this like that. I'll just paste that in like this. And then we can just go ahead and grab that like such. I wasn't sure if I was going to do it, but I decided that I'm doing it. Okay. Sorry. And so we'll go ahead and do that. Payloads bucket, like that. Okay. And so let's put a comma on there. And so now these will just be exactly what they're supposed to be. So paste that there. This, I think, is just a mistake. That's not supposed to be there. Go ahead and grab that out like that. This AWS region will be replaced here. This is the, yeah, this is our region. That makes sense. There's supposed to be a comma on the end here there. Otherwise, that would error out. Payload buckets, which we just put down here. That. File path. I like how it's the same. Doesn't matter. So we'll go up like that for a moment. Yeah, and so that passes that stuff along. And now where we call that, which is over in our uploader, I believe, or over here. Just over here for a second. I think we already have it open there. I go back over here. It calls that here. And so it's probably just better that we go like this here. Because it only ever gets called once, so it's not a big deal for now verbose over here. It was before when we were going to repeat it a bunch of times that I was more concerned about it. And so we'll go like this. And make curlies. Well, we don't actually have to make curlies. But we'll go here and paste the contents in here like this. And now what I can do is just call attribs on each one of these like this. So we'll say attribs, file path, attribs, object key, attribs, AWS region, attribs, AWS access key, attribs, AWS secret key, attribs, payloads bucket. Okay, so that is getting called there like that. We'll do the same thing for this one, whatever it needs, right? And yeah, it's very verbose, but the point is that it'll be easier to maintain in the future. This one is in the payloads. Oh, we just grabbed the one from the uploads. So we have this kind of backwards. They're pretty darn similar. So we'll put this one here. And we'll go over to payloads and see what it needs. If we go to payloads here, it is here. And I'm just going to bring some of these down here. It does make copying and pasting a lot easier too. And so we can just kind of see what's going on here as well. So similar, but this one is going to have the user ID. Why don't those have why aren't those there for the other one? Let's go back over here for a second. Uploader. File path. Object key. Oh, that's the wrong function. I'm not paying attention here, am I? Okay, well, coming back over here, it's this. This is what this is for. The uploader. We'll go ahead and cut this out here. Sorry. We'll paste it in here. We still do have to do those functions as well, so it's not that big of a deal. But we'll go back over to our uploader, and we'll scroll on down till we find our upload key, like this. And we'll do something similar. So we'll go ahead and just grab these values here. And that is for our uploader, so that goes here. Attribs, user UID, attribs, project scope, attribs region, and we have attribs file name. Okay, so that one's okay. We now have to go over to this one here. Can I click through to that? No. Well, that's a shame, but that's okay. I can find it, no problem. This one is in output file, so it should be, yeah, right here. So we have something very similar. The only difference is that this one doesn't have an output path. Or I mean, sorry, this one does have an output path. So we go here, output path, attribs, output path. Okay. And yeah, more verbose, but more clear what's going on. So that's those there. And of course, this just takes a trib, so it takes a lot of stuff in because it's the runner, so it can be a little bit more explicit. This command here, so this says send the command. Do we need anything else in this command over here? Because it needs the region and the output file. So we do actually have to pass this parameters here. Okay, so that's the command, but then usually the second parameter, when you ever use these things, almost always the second parameter is the arguments. And so in here we have that. I'm going to just double check how this function works. And we'll take a look. Yeah, splat operator, send it like that. Okay, so I think we just follow like we normally would with our arguments, whatever we want for this. And so this is taking, different things. But I guess what we should be doing is we have a tribs, but we should also have what do we want for the command. So I'm going to go back over to our project validation tool where we have over here. And so this has that like that. Just say like base attribs on this, base attribs, and then for this it'll be attribs merge. I just can't see what's going on, and so that's why I'm lifting this up here. Either way, we'd end up making a new line, so we'll go here, and I'm just going to paste that in as such like that. And we'll go here like this and say base attribs, base attribs. And then what we can do here is pass in whatever arguments it needs. Because, I mean, this passes in this information for the runner itself. I guess this is like runner attribs. Runner attribs. And then here what we have is the command attribs. Okay, and this is going to be different. And I think we can expand that like that, because that will turn it into, I think, the data structure we want, which is just passing them along like that. And so then if we go down to our command needs an output file and an output key. No, it doesn't, because we have extracted those out. What it needs here is the region, and it needs the output file. It's a little bit different. Now, we actually don't need to pass it here because we can actually pass those along. So to keep this, again, back to being simple, we can go here and put back the attribs like this. Yeah, we'll go back. I thought we had to do more here, and so it actually turns out okay, like the way we're doing it, like this. So we'll put it back to this. And what I want to do here is go where this is, where the runner is. And the runner should pass along those values. So the output file still needs to get passed along like here. So it'd be output file. Output file is output file. I'm not sure how it would handle those, but we'll give that a go. And then here we need the region. So the region is going to be the region from the attribs here. Okay, so that would resolve that issue. If assuming I got the syntax right, I could have got that wrong, which is totally fine. But I still don't know if different commands are going to have different requirements for what they're checking for. Other than the region and the output file, it seems like it's okay. I'm not really filtering or doing anything special with the data. It's because it's my assumption that these accounts don't have a lot of data in them because they're not supposed to be running them in existing accounts. So, it'll be the boot camper's fault if they do that. Or what we could do is always make sure we only filter based on tags. So if stuff isn't tagged, we won't touch it. So there's that. But anyway, so that's going to run there. And so, yeah, I think that's all nice and reworked now. So we'll go back to our rake file here. And it's really now about having that env set up. If we go over here, yeah, it'll save that env. So I don't think there's anything sensitive in here. I think we're okay. Initial structure for validation tool. Okay. And so it's very important that the tool uploads to S3. We don't want to be uploading and downloading constantly, but they are JSON files, so it's not that big of a deal. Um, but anyway, what I want to do here is we have the runner. It's going to download the files. I'm just wondering if we should make it a two-step process where it's like, all right, we're going to download all your files and we're going to tell you if all the files are there. And then the second part of it would be like, all right, we have all your files. Now are you ready to run the runner, right? And so that would be something I think that we could do. So that's what I'm kind of thinking about right now. And that's what this does right now. So if we go over here this over here. That's not it. It's here. Yeah, here. This is called the tribs. So I will download and upload the files. And so maybe instead of doing, runner, it'd be like download and then run. I just keep thinking of the name, like, why call it runner? Why call it payloads? Payloads, AWS runner, run. So what I'm thinking here is, again, two-step process. So the idea is we have a downloads. It's like downloads and uploads. Payloads. And then you'd have validates. I'm just trying to think for that for a second. Because we want to download the files and then upload them to a place, and then we want to run them, that we want to pull them down and then run them again. Yeah, okay, so I'll just call it run for now. But right now, the scope of this is probably just going to download the files and then upload them to S3. And then we'll figure out the second part next. So we just want to make sure that works. Minor fix here, minor fix. So now what I need is my actual .env file here. And it's going to be pretty similar to this. I'm not setting these because they're already set locally, well, except for the AWS region. Because we did set AWS default region, but this one is using AWS region for whatever reason. We could change that so it's using the default region instead. But anyway, I'm going to go over to here. We'll paste this in here. The ones I'm going to exclude are these because they're going to get loaded a different way. And then here I'm just going to do CA or US East 1, which is where we actually are for this. I'm actually going to go back here and just set that value here so I don't have to worry about that. And so that is now set up. Okay. Yeah, so I guess the next thing is to actually run the file. Now we are loading the env here, but it actually doesn't take any envs. So we can actually remove this out of here. And so the idea is that we have, we're not gonna use nvars that way, right? So everything should be passed in. We should know exactly where things are going in our application. And that really, really does make things easier. So let's go ahead and give this a run and see if it even works. Bundle exec rake. Run AWS 2023. Is that what we called it? We'll go back over to our rake file here. And yep, that's what it is. We'll hit enter. We got to install it. Okay, bundle install. No problem. We'll go hit up. We'll run this again. And we'll go work through our errors. We had Ruby cop or whatever. It fixes stuff for us, but I don't care. So it says rake is not currently found. Oh, we did not put it in our gem file, right? So we'll have to specify that if we want to use rake. Gem rake. We'll go back, hit up, run this again. It's minor issue here. So this is in where our rake file. Yes, it is. We'll go over here. What's its problem? Expecting a parenthesis somewhere here. Line 12. Oh, there's a comma missing. There we go. Do that. Run that again. Cannot load such a file, Cloud Project Bootcamp tool. Yeah, so it can't load it because we didn't make it into a gem. So let's go over to the other thing I had, which is, I'll leave this open. We seem to sometimes jump back into our code here. I have that sync tool, so I can just type in sync. There it is over on Teacher Seat. And what I'm looking for here is the gem spec file. So I'll go over here. And this isn't intended to be pushed, but I'm going to go ahead and copy that. And I'm going to go make this gem spec file. This has to be called the same thing or similar. Someone's underscore. We'll go back over here. Notice like this is underscore, but the repo is hyphen. It's just how it goes. So we'll go here, Cloud Project Bootcamp Validation Tool.rb. Okay. Actually, that should be gem spec. Rename to gem spec. Okay. And then I'll go ahead and paste that on in here like this. Yeah, and so our dependencies would actually go into, like whatever we need would actually go into here instead. So the gem file would actually be empty, but I guess the thought here is that I'm trying to use the gem with inside the gem. I guess what we'd have to do is make an examples folder. So a folder here and call it examples. And then what I'd have to do, oh, that makes sense, right? What structure is it supposed to have? I always forget. It's lib and then it's inside of it, not the other way around. So the order here is a bit messed up, but this is supposed to actually be called this. So I'm going to rename this. So rename, copy this, rename to this. CPBV. I'm going to do CPBVT like that. And then that's supposed to rename to lib. So that makes a lot more sense. And so this example, that's where the rake file is going to live. So I'll go into here and move that there. And then this gem file is specific to whatever. So these env files really need to belong in here. Okay. And then this gem file is fine, but we don't use .env in here, so we'll make a new gem file in here. Hopefully we can have a gem file like this and it doesn't complain too much. But we'll go here, and I'll copy the contents here, and we'll go into here. And this doesn't need either of these, but it's going to specify the gem, and then we're going to include it here. And so I think this will work if we do it this way. This will be called the Cloud Project Bootcamp Validation Tool. There might be a limit on how long gem names can be. How long can gem names be in Ruby? There's probably a limit. It's not like we're publishing it this second. So until I have to publish it, I'm not really too worried about it. But if we run into an error, we'll find out soon enough. Cloud Project Bootcamp Validation Tool, like that. And then I can just specify the path. So I'm going to go here. And then I'm just going to give it the absolute path. So let's go here like this. And so that will load the gem locally inside this example. This example is used for running it. And so that makes a lot more sense. If we go back over to here, we don't really need to rake here, so we can just take that out. And so I can do a bundle install on this. Now, this doesn't actually need a gem file in this way. What we do is we go to this gem file here, and notice it just has this gem spec thing. So we can go ahead and copy this instead, and then we will replace it like this. Okay. I'm just going to take that out like this. And so whatever we need is going to be dependencies over here, whether they're developer dependencies or dependencies. So what we'll do is grab this over here like this, and we'll paste that in as such. And that .env, we don't need it in here either. It's going to be up here in this gem file. Oh, we already have it there. Great. So really the only dependency we have right now is this Ruby OpenAI. We do need AWS SDK S3, so it's good that we actually already have that there. So that's perfect. But we'll remove these here. And so this is the way it's going to load instead. This will be the Cloud Project Bootcamp validation tool. Okay. And they always give you two, but I'm just going to write the same thing. It is a teacher seat thing, but we could also say exampro.co. Because I put it under that domain. I think it makes more sense there. And then we have to specify the version. So where did I put it here? Probably right in here, right? Version's right there, yep. So I'll go into here, and I'll make a new file here, and I'll just say version.rb. And now we can rename this to Cloud Project Bootcamp version T. There we go. Okay, so that's a lot shorter. And so the version will be specified here. So we'll go here and just do version like that. And I'll just take a look at how I was defining it over here. There's a few different ways of doing it, but I'm just going to do it this way. And we'll go into our version here. This will be, for now, 0.0.1. We'll change it to 1 when we actually have this working. I don't want to leave it as never working. I always don't like when people do that. So we'll have CPBVT. There we go. I'm not sure what's harder, the long name or the initialisms. But so that's how that will get loaded in there. We'll make our way back over here and just double check what these are. So this will be CPBVT. And this will be Cloud Project Bootcamp validation tool. Okay. I guess the license is MIT. I guess I decided on a license, even though I don't have it in the file here. And so yeah, that should generally load it, right? It'll load the lib directory up here, so that's perfect. This file here is not true anymore. This is actually now CPBVT, like that. And yeah, so hopefully that works. I'm just kind of doing this stuff based on memory. I tried to do a bundle install here, and it is uninitialized constant here on line 9. Did we miss something? Right there we did, yeah. And so this is going to be CPBVT, like that. Right, and then we'll go and try this again, bundle install our dependencies. So that is working okay. The question is, will it take our sample okay? So I'll do bundle install on this. We could also fix the version in Ruby and say, like, use this Ruby version. I'm not going to do that until it becomes an issue. And I just want to see what would get committed. The .env is still there. It should ignore that. So we'll go over to our git YAML, our git ignore. And I don't want that .env to be there. There's nothing sensitive in there, but we really shouldn't be committing that. So we'll go up here. We'll just say .env should not be there. And so we'll go back over here. Yes, now it's removing it. And so yeah, we refactor into a Ruby gem. And we still haven't tested to see if it works, but now we're really set up to be able to test it while we're using it. So now I can do bundle install in this subdirectory. And then I'm going to do bundle exec rake. And what is it called here? This one is run AWS 2023. It's not currently in the bundle. Perhaps you added it to your gem file. Oh, it's not there either. Okay, so we'll go gem, and then we'll do rake here. And then we'll go ahead and hit up. I think I can do this in this manner, and we'll run that. It says cannot load Cloud Project Bootcamp validation tool. Cloud Project Bootcamp validation tool. It really depends on what the name is over here. So what name are we using? Same name. But yeah, why can't it require it? But yeah, that's how we work with gems. We just specify its path. So the syntax is correct. There's just some kind of pathing or something that I have wrong here. Cannot load such file, Cloud Project Bootcamp validation tool. Now this one has hyphens here. So I'm not sure if it wants the hyphens instead. Because you can have a different name of the folder and a different name of the file. It's interesting. But we'll try this here and see what happens. So could not find it here in this source. But you know what? This one's underscored, so it would be that. It'd be whatever this one is on the gemspec file right here. So rename here. I'm going to go ahead and grab this. And so I'll paste this in here as such. And we'll try this one more time. Cannot load such file. So it actually is loading it, but it's happening in the rake file. So if we go over to the rake file here. Maybe this name doesn't match. It's a pretty long name, so there's that. And then we hit up here. Well, you know what? The reason why is because this here is called CPBVT, so that's probably its issue. So it's probably CPBVT is what it's looking for. It's just because I'm trying to keep some of the name in there so we remember what it is. But yeah, it's a little bit tricky when I did it that way. So we'll go there and do that, hit up. And we'll go over here. Unable to find a compatible XML library. Oh, I hate having to install Nokogiri. So we do have a lot of options here. I guess we could do Ox, I suppose. I'm not sure what level we need to do this at. Probably here. So we'll do gem, Ox. I'm just not sure where we should do it. We'll just hit up. See if that takes it. Or do bundle install here. Bundle install. It's going to install Ox, and hopefully that will fix that issue. It could be that it needs to be a dependency on the other level there. I'm not really sure what we're using Nokogiri for, but you know what probably needs it is the AWS CLI. That's probably the reason why. And so we'll go up here, and again, we're just working through errors. So it says uninitialized constant CPVT payloads. So we'll go up here. And I mean, that's here, which is fine. This is the area net on line 3. Right? And the reason this is messing up is because these modules haven't been defined yet. So what we'll do is just drag these up here first. Put that here. I can't put a colon there like that. I've never tried this before, but I'm going to do this and just say like module defs. Just to clean this up. I wonder if I could do that. There's a dynamic way to do it. Again, don't know how to do it. Not going to figure it out. Don't care. Module defs, like that. And we'll go take a look at what the problem is here. This is on the validations. Take that out like that. We're not even using that yet, so it's kind of funny that it's complaining, but we'll go ahead and hit up. This says no module defs. It's right there. Didn't I name it right? modules, defs. I guess I got to be consistent with my naming. Okay, so getting closer. Here it expects what? Well, we actually have a bunch of arguments now. So if we go back to our rake file here, it's actually expecting all of this stuff. So I guess that's what we should be passing in here. So we'll go here and do project scope. And we just copy this. We'll be here all day if we do it this way. And we'll copy that like that. I'll go up a line here. I will paste that in as such, like this. And we'll just take off the ends on this, like this. Okay. Take that off like that. And we will move the indentation up like this. Whoops, 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 whoops. That's not what we want to do. We'll move this up like this. Okay. And coming down here, now we can pass those values again. Yeah, because we don't need all of them. We just need some of them. So here we do project scope. And then here, obviously, this would be the user UID. And then we have the region for the user. Is that the region for the user? It is. We don't say that here. And in fact, we don't even pass the other region here. That's kind of discerning. So we should have user region and then just the actual region here. And so we'll just put that on like that. So we just don't get mixed up about what's what here. This runner probably needs more than just a few of these, because it does a bunch of stuff, right? So it seems like it needs basically a lot more than what we're passing it here. Let's go back over to our runner and our payloads here. Yeah, we don't want to get our regions mixed up. So we have, there's user region and then there's the region. So the user region has to be for output file key. This is supposed to be the user region. This is also supposed to be the user region. And yeah, that would be the regular region right there. And so we are definitely calling a lot more stuff here. It seems like almost all the attributes are being passed in here. The only thing that is maybe not passed is that file name right there. So we could literally roll up all these attributes here. It's probably all the stuff here. We'll go here and paste it in like this. There could be a case where we might not pass all of them in, but in this particular case we are. So we'll just do it like this: project scope, user UID, user region. We have region here. Region. Output path. Right, that. Okay, and so that's now brought over here. So yeah, so those are being passed along. Looks good to me. Run that again. Unknown keyword region for CPVT line 8. Probably we should define it in here so it knows what it is. Hit up again. Undefined user UID. For line 6 of AWS payloads. Well, it should know what it is. It gets passed in. But maybe it doesn't get passed in at this level, the rake file. It does. It's right here. So what's our problem here? Undefined method user UID for this. It's actually returning Oh, for frick's sakes, I'm showing my access keys and secrets. Well, heck, you already know what they are, so it's not that big of a deal. But yeah, I guess that would be a case where if you didn't want that stuff exposed, I'm surprised that's console logging that out there like that. I guess it's not that much of a problem. Anyway, so we'll go over to payloads aws.rb. This is line 6, so it doesn't know what this is here. Huh. But here, calls this. So our issue's probably in this file here. Oh, right. It's because this here is not an open struct. The structure of it is not like you can't do a dot syntax on that. That's like a JSON thing. We can kind of cheat with ostructs. So I can just Ruby ostruct to do that. We don't really need an ostruct, but I just don't really want to go change it to a different structure. I just want to keep it the structure that it has. Yeah, so we'll go here. In my cloud programming course, I talk all about ostructs. Yeah, we can initialize it that way. So I'm thinking maybe we can do this and say attribs. Maybe it'll let us do it that way. Just kind of cheating here. Unified method output file for those modules, line 7. So it's saying this method doesn't exist. That's because it's in the runner now, isn't it? Yeah, it is. So we'll go here and just change this to runner. Like that. Try this again here. No implicit conversion of string. Line 46 for the join. In the output file. So in this on line 46, no implicit conversion of nil into string. So something's not being passed along here. I mean, we load our env, but it's possible we're not setting something here. We'll just try this. We'll do puts args. Inspect. That's how we can get all the arguments. Let's try that. Or is it just arguments? Arguments. Print functions arguments. Ruby. That was args. In 1.92, you can use the parameters. That's a weird one of doing it. Is there not a better way? Yeah, why can't I do it? Well, because I'd have to have it as asterisk args. I see. And the thing is with Ruby, even if something's like 1.9.2, a lot of this stuff still works. Not like Python. Python is, it sucks. Sorry. Python's not great. I don't care if you like Python. It's not great. You'll never convince me. User UID. Project scope. Region. One of these things are blank. Output path. File name. Something's not here. I'm not sure why that one's colored weird. It doesn't like that, maybe. Like that's not hurting it, but like it's just a syntax highlight issue. Like there was no problem. We didn't really need those parentheses there, but I just didn't like to see that highlight going messed up there. So here it's not printing out most of the values. We get the project scope. but not the user UID. What's going on here? Maybe it's here in this file when it actually gets passed along. Or the rake file, sorry. We load them. Though we don't do that that load function though, eh? And this is hard-coded for that. Do we set the scope in here? We don't. So that's probably the issue, is we're just not doing our dot load. Dot env load, maybe? And then that will fix that issue probably. There we go, now we're getting values. Undefined local name, file name in payloads AWS. So we'll go over here and we will make our way over to line 51. It's just a spelling mistake, so let's just take those out. We don't need those anymore. And we'll go back and hit up. And we'll scroll up a little bit. Execute with send. Undefined method, execute with send. Well, I guess it didn't work as we thought it would. There's obviously other ways of doing that, but I was hoping we could just do some copy paste spaghetti there and it would work. That is in line 22, it says in this file, which I don't know if that's really true. Oh, it is. Okay. So, well, it says this is a module. It's supposed to be a class. So that's probably our problem here. Okay. Try this again. See if it makes it happier. Undefined method execute with send for class. Why not? Undefined Ruby. Dynamically execute a function Ruby on a class Ruby. Metaprogramming, that's cool. Methods send. Maybe we'll just change that to send. Like that. Okay, so getting closer. This one says undefined method execute for line 28. Here. So I'm just curious, did this command actually happen? Oh yeah, it did. There we go. So yeah, there's our output command. That's kind of cool, and it just took the parameters, no problem. CA Central A. I don't think that's a valid region there, buddy. I know it's my fault, but we'll go here. We'll go back over here. And so it's saying this execute command doesn't exist. That's because it's now under runner. I am hungry. I am hungry. We'll hit up here. I will scroll up here. No region was provided. Configure the region option or export the region name, such as AWS region. This is trying to do the upload now. So this would be in the uploader that's having this problem. Did we not? Oh yeah, we did not specify. Well, this is AWS region here. And, well, this one just says AWS region. It's really, we just called it region. Bad naming, I guess. But, so that would bring that over here. We'll go hit up. Try this again. And we'll scroll up. Uploader, line 27. Puts file path. I don't think it's called files path. It's called output file here. So the reason that's not working. Scroll up. All right, getting closer. We'll just do puts here. Flip this back up here. And now what we got? Blank. It looks like it's not passing along here. Yeah, we scroll up. Yeah, so it's blank, right? So what we need to do here is go over here, and we need to understand why it's blank, because it should get passed along. It has to work up here because it outputs the file, right? It saves and outputs the file, or at least it executes it here. So, you know, I would think that it would have to be correct. Yeah, and so why doesn't it work here? File path right there. Yeah. I mean, maybe it's not working. Maybe it's not actually there. So if we go to refresh here. Output. Which, by the way, we should probably move that now into our examples, because we really don't want the output within the gem. Well, it's not really in the gem. I'll move it over here in examples. And so we'll move that over here. And so now we'll go back over to our env over here. And this is going to be output. This will be examples output. Yeah. Same thing with this here. Examples output. I'm going to go into here. I'm just going to go into here, and I'm just going to delete this. Because I'm assuming that it's not actually creating the file there, but it was there before, and so that's why it's being successful. It's not just telling us that. So let's go scroll up. No, it's creating the file. It's definitely creating the file, but for some reason, the file path does not exist here when we get to the uploader. But it's right here, so explain that to me. We'll do this here. We'll do puts output file 2, and then we'll just do this here. Output file. Like, is it getting unset somehow? Some weird way? It's supposed to have a tribs on that? Yeah, I think it's supposed to. Well, no, don't we output the output file up here? Yeah, we do. So we'll go here, 1 and 2, and see what happens. It's there for 1 and it's there for 2. It's there for 1 and it's there for 2. So the output file is definitely there, for sure. But when we call the run, it doesn't show up. Oh, I didn't want to. Come on. Moving my code around on me. That's not fair. Anyway, so here we have file path. All I can think of is that it's named incorrectly. So we'll go here, puts file path, unless it gets overridden. We can put these parentheses on just for fun. Just have this N off there. Puts file path here. We will scroll down. We'll try this again. I don't know. I mean, it's there and then it's not there. So, oh, you know what? It's because it doesn't have a tribs on this here. These are generated out from other functions, so they're not actually getting passed that way. There we go. I was almost to call it quits there, but last minute, I figured it out. We'll go hit up here, and undefined method or variable object key, output key. Well, it's called object key, I believe, and it's also the uploader that does it. So we go over here. output key. It's supposed to be object key. Not a big deal. There we go. So maybe that will fix that issue there. The bucket you're attempting to access must be addressed using a specified endpoint. Please send all future requests to this endpoint. Okay. Maybe ChatGPT gave us bad code. Okay, that's possible too. So what region? Oh, well, this is doing AWS region. It should be in US East 1. I believe that's where we created it. I remember explicitly making it in US East 1. Cloud project. Oh, we already have, well, there's CPVT, which was one bucket that we have. And CPVT is something else. So this is our bucket here. It's made in US East 1, so I'm not sure. Cloud Project Bootcamp validation tool. And we'll go over here. Cloud Project Bootcamp validation tool. I'm just going to paste it in here, make sure that's correct. Yes, yes. The bucket is here. We go to our uploader over here. And carefully look at this here. File content. It's actually not specifying. No, it's up here. It specifies it there. So what then? Okay, we'll just do puts here. Puts AWS region. AWS region here. That's all I can think of, that it's not going to the region that we think it's going to. Yeah, it's saying CA Central 1. That's not right. We want this to be the correct region. So this is supposed to be the AWS region for our thing, but it's pulling for the wrong one. I don't understand, because there's a user region and then we have regular region. Oh, well, the thing is that we have user. Well, no, that one's fine because it doesn't care what that is. Here, this one should be called CA Central 1. So maybe we'll just walk through our rake file and see where we messed this up. So this is user AWS region. Oh, that's wrong. This is just supposed to be AWS region. So there's our problem. We'll go back and hit up. Fingers crossed. There we go. So it's uploading the file over to there. I would say that is a good checkpoint for today. The next thing I need to do is I need to write a few more of those things here, just a few more commands. Really, actually, we could do that now. It wouldn't even take that long because it really is just a copy-paste job. Yeah, maybe we should do a little bit more. So I'm just trying to think of some things that we might need, like maybe S3 buckets. So like list S3 buckets in an AWS account using the AWS CLI for a specific region. Okay, so super simple. We'll go ahead and copy this here and just continue on. We might even want to explicitly say that it's using JSON, so we get the format that we expect it to be in. But I'll go here and we'll say list buckets. Whoops, list buckets. And that's going to do something very similar. Yeah, I'll leave that there for a second here. And then inside of this, we can just go ahead and bring that up like that. And so we want to have our region. And then we want to have our output file. And I was hugging this stuff to the wall before. I think I'll do that. Okay, and so that should, I think in theory, work. So I'll go ahead here and we will copy this. The only thing is that this one, I don't know if list buckets actually takes a region. AWS S3 API regions. CLI. List buckets. So do you have to specify one? Because there is AWS S3 LS, which is a little bit different. So if we go here, we can go version 2 here. This one, I don't think you have to specify region. If you do AWS S3 LS, it will print out all your buckets. It should. So I think that's what I would kind of prefer to do, is to get all the buckets. And so in this case, no region is required to be specified. And so here, we don't really need the region. We can pass it along, but we can just ignore it. The other thing is that the bucket key creates a very specific name, but we'll just try this. We'll do AWS S3. It's actually kind of good that we're doing this other one. We'll do AWS S3 LS. And we'll take out the region because we don't care about having a region for this one. And we'll go back over here. This can be indented. There's no reason that can't be indented. And so this one's going to be list buckets, which is actually not the name. This is describe VPCs. What's this endpoint called? It's called LS. So yeah, maybe we should be naming these a little bit better because describe VPCs I think is under EC2. Yeah, it is. So this should really be called EC2 like that. And that way this will just be more consistent with, more consistent with the naming. Okay, so here this would be now S3LS. And we'll go here and this will be S3LS. The name here would be S3LS like that. It's getting upset there. Let's take that off like that. But this one, the region is going to be different. So the user region is just global, or we could even say all or global. We'll say global, and that way we'll get all of them. And so hopefully that will take effect properly. So we'll run this again. And now I'm just curious about that output. Refresh that here. Expand that. Global. And now we're getting all the buckets. It's not in the format that we want. See, this one's JSON, but this one's not JSON. So we really want to be consistent with our format. And so I think this is where we should really specify the output. So say output JSON for both of these. Okay. This one here, we'll bring that down a step. And we'll try that again. Hopefully that works. Okay, and so I can go back into this file. Still not what I want. AWS S3 LS -- output JSON. We can't format that as JSON? Output. It's right there. Why are you not giving me JSON? We'll go back over here. Can I do table? Can I get a different format here? Table. It's like it's forced to a very particular one. That's weird. What's going on here? AWS S3 LS not outputting JSON. Okay. I guess we're going back to that other one then. That's fine. We'll just do that then. We'll go back over here. So silly. But it looks like we can, maybe we can exclude the that error there. And maybe S3 API is the newer one. I don't know. It's quite confusing, to be honest. Like what is what here? But this one will be now called S3 API list buckets. We can't use S3 LS because it won't return JSON, which is silly, but I didn't code it, so we want to go back over to wherever this runner is here, paste that in here, we'll paste that in as such, like this. Okay. And we'll go and hit up and try this again. Okay, did it to create that file? There we go, new file. Name, creation date. How do we know what region they're in? They don't say. So that's a little bit frustrating that it doesn't show the region, but thanks, AWS. Yeah, why is there no region data? AWS S3 LS with region. Interesting. Well, at least it outputted as JSON. So yeah, there's more to do here, but I think that we achieved enough here today. What I need to keep doing is I need to output a few more types here. And then once that happens, the next thing is to feed them into the machine. And then decide, like, how do we consider the machine? When we say the machine, we're talking about ChatGPT here or OpenAI, to say, like, you know, did this pass or not, right? When that is done, then the next thing is how do we deliver this to the boot campers? I integrated it before in a different way, and the thing is similar to this, except I wasn't downloading the JSON in raw. I was parsing it and then making a syntax checker, and it was just, again, very complicated, where this is a lot easier and has the same result, if not better, more flexibility. So, you know, my thoughts here are the experience is going to be boot campers are going to go to a page, they're going to press a button, and it's going to say that it's downloading all the JSON. And then once all the JSON's downloaded, then I mean, I guess you could see what the JSON is if you want. I could show it to back to the boot camper saying, like, here's all your JSON data. You could even download the payload if you wanted to take a look and see what was uploaded to our account, because these are small files, super, super small files. And then once that happens, you can hit the button and it would just run it. And then I guess you could see all the output from the chat machine, and it could evaluate it. And then it could give, you know, I could just ask it a series of questions, and, you know, it'll either be able to answer them yes or no and give me a final determination. And then I'll have that as a review, as something I can check. So that's what I'm thinking, okay? But anyway, this is good enough for today. So, you know, upload files to S3. And so hopefully that was fun for you to watch, or at least learn something, at least about generative AI or anything going on here. I'm going to go rotate out my credentials here. I just do not want anyone to get access to that. So I'll go over and do that. So we'll go over to users here, and then we'll go into our Cloud Project Validation tool, and we'll go over here. And I'm just going to go ahead and delete that, and we'll deactivate that, and then delete the key. I don't know if I exposed my Open API one, so I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that one as well. But yeah, this is just like a bonus video. You don't have to watch it if you don't want, but it does help you understand more stuff, and you're always learning more stuff. So depends if you like it. We'll see you in the next one. Ciao.